basics of what you're going to be doing. Okay, up here. Usually when you're asked to graph, you have to do the slope-intercept form. And you have to put in the slope-intercept. You have to do all this work. Does that look familiar? Yeah. It's going to apply quite a bit, right? And it's on your review package as well. And you go through, and this works just fine. Y equals negative 2/3 x plus what? 2. 5 by 3, 5 by 3. And so we go to plus 2, and we go down to right 3, down to right 3, and then we can graph it. However, there's another pattern emerges here that we can do maybe an old-fashioned way. Old-fashioned way is just plug in points. And if you're ever plugging in points, what's a good number to plug in? Easiest number to plug in always is 0. Right? And what we're going to do is actually find these 2 points just by plugging in 0, because the y-intercept, that's where x equals 0. So if I plug x equals 0 into here, what would I have? If x equals 0 right here, this would be 0 and just go away. So what does y equal? 3 times y equals 6. 2. So I know that the y-intercept is 2. And that's the same thing we get right here. The y-intercept for b is 2. But I can also do the same thing for the x-intercept. The x-intercept is very similar, only that the y value is 0. So it's some number comma 0 because it's on the x-axis. So instead of plugging in 0 for x, I can plug in a 0 for y. And I'll be left with 2x equals 6. Because for 3y, once again, if I plug in y equals 0, this just goes away. And 2 times y equals 6 is 3. And I know that this point right here is 3 comma 0. Now I have 2 points. Just plot those 2 points and draw a line through it. So the only thing we had to do, instead of doing all of this right here, right, all of this work, I only had to solve 2 things using this other method. I had to solve 3 times what is 6, and I had to solve 2 times what is 6. Get an answer of 2 and 3, and then there it is, 2 and 3, and draw the line, and that's it. So would you agree that this is a little bit easier than this? Now, the question comes up, well, what if it doesn't go in evenly? What if this was like 4? And it's 6 divided by 4. Okay, so you have a fraction. Maybe that's not quite as easy, but it still works as long as you know what a fraction is on the line. But they always involve a 0, and 0 is the easiest number to plug in, so it's a good method to use. If it's in this standard form, when you have this method, and both of these numbers go into this number, makes it really easy. So let's look at a few of these together. The first thing you want to start off with is that if you're finding the x-intercept, that means the y is 0. If you find the y-intercept, that means the x is 0. Right here. No matter what point I pick right here, any y-intercept, it's always going to be 0 comma something. 0 comma something. So y-intercepts have an x of 0. And no matter if I'm trying to find an x-intercept, it's always going to be some number comma 0. That y value is going to be 0. So for all of those, go ahead and put in zeros in the right place. 0, it's just the opposite. If you're trying to find the x-intercept, 0 goes on the y. Trying to find the y-intercept. That way, at the end of this, your x-intercept, your answer is going to be x equals. Y is 0, x is going to be x-intercept. Go ahead and put in zeros. notice how I gave you some nice numbers? Nice meaning 3 and 7 go into 21 units. So you'll get home runs. So let's go through a few of these together. If I want to find the x-intercept here, that means I plug in y equals 0. If y equals 0, what does x equal? 0 basically means you get rid of it. So if I get rid of the y, what's left over? X. See how easy that is? And what if I plug in 0 for the y? Yeah, get the same thing actually. So those are the x-intercepts and the y-intercepts. And if I wanted to, we're not going to yet, but I could go ahead and graph. There's 0, 2, and 2, 0, and draw a line through them, and that's my graph of x plus y. We'll do that below, though. That's the reason why we're doing this right now. So try this. Y, number 2, y equals 0. Make the y 0. See what's left over. What will the x equal? 3 times y is 9. 3. And then do the y-intercept. Plug in 0 for x. So if this is 0, it goes away. What's left over? Y equals 9. Plot those 2 points. What you're going to be doing, don't have to use it. But 3, 0 is right here. And 0, 9 would be up here, and then draw your line. Of course, we could subtract 3x and get a slope of -3 over 1, and the y-intercept of 9. Start at 9, and go down 3, right 1, down 3, right 1, and get the same exact line. So it's not like this is going to give you a different line than if you did slope-intercept. It's just another way of doing the same thing. Try, is that already? Yeah, I guess try number 3 on your own, and then check with your neighbor if you got the same 2 numbers. Notice how there's a negative on the 2 here. So one of your answers probably should be negative. Yep. Okay. Eyes up here. Plug in y equals 0. Plug in y equals 0. So if y equals 0, we have 5 times what is 10. And you get 2. Yeah. And then do the same thing for x. Plug in x equals 0. So -2 times what is 10? No. -5. -2 times -5 is positive 10. So 2, 0, and 0, -5 would look like this, and that would be the graph. Yeah. Why did I put 2 in the x spot? How did I get 2? Plug in y equals 0. So if this is 0 right here, this -2 times 0 is 0, and I'm left with 5 times what is 10, and that's how we got 2. So it's the same thing, but slightly changed. First I do 0 for one, then I do 0 for the other. And again, what are these called? What type of special points are these called? Because they have a 0 in them, they're called intercepts. That's how we're getting these intercepts. Because they have a 0 in the coordinate, it makes it an intercept, meaning it crosses the axis. It intercepts the axis. All right. Special cases. X equals -4. What kind of line is this? What kind of line? It's a special one, right? It's x equals. So what kind of line is that? Undefined slope, and it's a vertical line. Does this line have a y-intercept? No. See how there's no y here? So for y-intercept, none. There is no y-intercept. The x-intercept is simply, it's right here, x equals -4. It's not, before we had to solve something to get what x equals, but here, there's only one intercept. So if there's one variable, one intercept. You have to have two variables that have two intercepts. So you'll have the same thing down here on number 8.
So no x-intercept?
No x-intercept because there's no x variable, and the y-intercept is simply 5. So if there's only a y-intercept and it doesn't cross the x-axis, that means it has to be a horizontal line because that would not cross the x-axis. Okay, so those are actually a little bit simpler.
For x-intercept, you put 2 zeros?
No, not 2 zeros, because 0, 0 would be right here. It doesn't cross here. So you have to say none. There is no intercept. Okay, go ahead and finish 1 through 9, or 4 through 9, really. Okay, stop at 9. And then we'll go over any questions, and then if we're all good, we'll continue and do the graph as well. But starting on 10 is the same as before, just with a graph. So you'll need a straight edge. Let's go to 10. Do the same thing. For the x-intercept, which one is 0? Which of these is 0 for the x-intercept?
The right.
Yeah, the y. And then, so we know it's the opposite here. We have to know that. And if you ever forget this, just think of the x-axis. Think of something that's on the x-axis. And think, well, what's that coordinate? Oh, that's going to be 3, 0. Okay, so the second number is 0. That's why. And you can remind yourself. You don't have to guess, because if you switch these, it could be a problem. We want to be careful. All right, so now let's do the same exact thing, but we're graphing. So plug in 0 for y. Okay. What does x equal? -3. Okay. -2 times -3 is 6. And we can plot it down here. Where's -3, 0? So it's going to be, see how this is the x-intercept? It's going to be on the x-axis. So -3, 0. And now do the same thing for the y. Plug in 0 for y. Well, we plug in 0 for x, sorry. There we go. So 3 times what is 6? 2. And that's going to be on the y-axis. There you go. Use a straight edge, draw a line all the way through. By the way, you could also write the equation of the line. You could see that, well, the slope is going to be up 2, right 3. So that's y equals 2/3 x plus 2. But really fast to graph, right?
I don't.
second period I thought August. Doesn't bad, I see some white
Okay. Number 11. Go ahead and try it on your own. Try number 11 on your own. Number 12. What variable is missing?
Y.
So which intercept are we not going to have?
Y.
Y. So what kind of line does not cross the y axis? Horizontal or vertical? Vertical. Yeah, vertical line. So if you solve this, you get x equals 2. So when you have a missing variable, you can't have an intercept for that variable. There's no y, there's no y-intercept. There's no x, there's no x-intercept. Okay? All right. Shortly, to finish up the back, we'll be really fast, and then go back to working on your final review packet. If you have anything that needs stamped, grab that out and raise your hand. I'll come around and stamp anything from this week.